That's a great question. While Jesus' ultimate sacrifice on the cross is the most well-known and central to the Christian faith, his earthly life was filled with sacrifices that we often take for granted. Here are three aspects of that sacrifice that may not be obvious to everyone. 1. The sacrifice of the incarnation. Emptying, kenosis. What it was. Before coming into the world, Jesus existed in full divine glory, equal with God the Father. Philippians 2:6. His act of becoming human, incarnation, was an immense sacrifice. He willingly gave up the independent exercise of his divine attributes and heavenly glory to be born as a vulnerable baby in humble circumstances. Why it's a less obvious sacrifice? We often focus on what Jesus did on earth, but we rarely stop to think about what he left behind in heaven and the limitations he accepted by becoming human. He exchanged the worship of angels and perfect communion with the Father for the filth, limitations, and hostility of a fallen world. He, the infinite creator, submitted to the laws of time and space, felt hunger, thirst, fatigue, and pain. 2. The sacrifice of living without sin in a sinful world. What it was, Jesus lived a full human life, was tempted in all points as we are, yet remained without sin. Hebrews 4:15. Living in constant contact with the darkness, hypocrisy, evil, and suffering caused by sin, while being perfectly holy and righteous, was a heavy burden. Why it is a less obvious sacrifice? We do not often think about the emotional and spiritual weight that Jesus carried daily as he witnessed and lived with the rebellion and pain of the humanity he loved so much. His perfect holiness was in constant friction with the imperfection around him. Furthermore, constantly resisting temptation, especially the subtle and direct temptations of Satan, as in the wilderness, required continual dependence and submission to the Father, which is in itself a sacrificial act of will. 3. The sacrifice of willing. Submission, what it was. Being God, Jesus was and is the supreme authority over all creation. However, during his earthly life, he willingly submitted himself to his earthly parents, Luke 2:51, to civil and religious laws, even when unjustly applied against him, and finally to the soldiers and authorities who arrested, tried, and executed him. Why it is a less obvious sacrifice? It is difficult to comprehend the magnitude of the creator of the universe humbly submitting to his own creatures and to flawed human structures. He had all the power to free himself or impose his will, but he chose the path of submission out of obedience to the Father and out of love for us, fulfilling the plan of salvation. This submission was not weakness, but an act of sacrificial strength and divine control. These aspects show us that Jesus' sacrifice was not limited to the final hours on the cross, but permeated his entire earthly existence, from the moment he left heavenly glory until his last breath, all out of love for humanity.